The island of Mauritius remained for a long time unknown, and its only inhabitants were the dodos and other endemic animals. In 1598, a fleet of 5 Dutch ships sailing under the orders of Admiral Wybrand van Warwick landed at Grand Port. The Dutch named the island Mauritius after Prince Maurice de Nassau. After several failed settlement attempts, the Dutch finally left Mauritius in 1710. Abandoned by the Dutch, Mauritius became a French colony in September 1715 when Guillaume de Fresne d'Arcel took possession of the island and renamed it Île-de-France. Although the French started their occupation in 1721, it was only after the arrival of the illustrious French governor Mahé de la Bourdonnais in 1734 that Île-de-France started developing effectively on all fronts. Mauritius' constitutional history began in 1723 when an
édit du roi établissant un conseil provincial à l'Île-de-France
was proclaimed. Thereafter, from 1735 to 1810, a number of other legal instruments were proclaimed by the French, namely
édit du roi établissant un conseil supérieur à l'Île-de-France. Ordonnance du roi concernant le gouvernement civil des Îles-de-France et de Bourbon. Mode de constitution de l'Île-de-France arrêté par l'Assemblée coloniale. Arrêté du premier consul concernant le gouvernement des Îles-de-France et de Bourbon. Le Code civil, le Code de procédure civile et le Code de commerce.
Unfortunately, due to the strategic position that Mauritius provides in the Indian Ocean, the French used Île-de-France as a base for pillaging British vessels on their way to and from India. Tired of being constantly attacked by the French, the British conquered Île-de-France in December 1810, and the island's name reverted to Mauritius. Mauritius was formally ceded to the British by the Traité de Paris in 1814. Most of the French settlers remained on the island and were allowed to keep their customs, religion, and laws pursuant to Article 8 of the Deed of the Capitulation, and that is why French laws such as le Code pénal, le Code Napoléon, le Code de procédure civile, and le Code de commerce have subsisted to this day. Progress achieved by the French continued under the British. In 1825, Mauritius obtained its first constitution under British rule, and a council of government was set up to assist and counsel in the administration of the government. After grievance from local planters and merchants, the council was expanded in 1831 to admit other high-ranking officials and 7 Franco-Mauritian representatives of the aristocracy of planters and merchants. In 1885, under the governorship of Pup Hennessy, Mauritius obtained its second constitution based on the principle Mauritius for Mauritians. A highly respected and well-liked governor, Sir John, Mauritianized the local administration by reducing the powers of the English officials and appointing Mauritians to positions of responsibility. In 1933, a minor revision was brought to the 1885 Constitution, increasing the membership of the unofficial nominees, thus admitting 2 non-officials to the Executive Council. In 1936, Dr. Maurice Curie demanded unconditional adult universal suffrage. Governor Mackenzie Kennedy set up a consultative committee in 1945 to look into the reform of the 1885 Constitution, and in 1948, the British government approved a new constitution for Mauritius. That constitution gave women the right to vote. Although it abolished the property qualifications requirement, it still required inhabitants to go through a simple literacy test to be eligible to vote. Following constitutional conferences held in London in 1955, 1956, the ministerial system was introduced in 1958 by an amendment to the 1948 Constitution. At the 4th London Constitutional Conference in 1961, further constitutional advancements were agreed, which led to Mauritius' 4th Constitution in 1964. Internal self-government was introduced. The Chief Minister status of Dr. Ram Ghulam was raised to that of Premier, and the latter was empowered to chair the Council of Ministers in the absence of the Governor. The Legislature and Executive Council renamed the Legislative Assembly and the Council of Ministers. The last London Constitutional Conference in 1965 paved the way for Mauritius to achieve independence, but not without cost. On the 23rd of September 1965, British Prime Minister Harold Wilson told Sir Siu Sagur Ramgoolam that he and his colleagues could return to Mauritius either with independence or without it. Diego Garcia could either be detached by an order in council or with the agreement of Premier and his colleagues. The best solution of all, said Wilson, might be independence and detachment by agreement. On the 8th of November 1965, a prerogative order in council created the British Indian Ocean Territory, comprising of the Chagos Archipelago, thus removing it as a dependency of Mauritius. In January 1967, Mauritius obtained a fifth constitution and became a self-governing nation, except in matters relating to external affairs, defence, and internal security. Governor Rennie appointed Sir Siu Sagur Ramgoolam as Premier. On the 12th of March 1968, the UK granted Mauritius its last and final constitution, and with it, independence. Mauritius became an independent, sovereign, democratic state, with Sir Siu Sagur Ramgoolam as its first Prime Minister. This constitution, which is still in force in Mauritius today, is based on the Westminster model. Political power is vested in the Prime Minister and the Cabinet. Elections are held every 5 years. Following a constitutional amendment in 1991, Mauritius changed its status to that of a republic on the 12th of March 1992, and Sir Vilasamy Ringadu became the first president. On the 12th of March 2018, Mauritius celebrated 50 years of independence. Mauritius is cited as a success story around the world and is, according to the latest Mo Ibrahim Foundation Governance Index, the best governed nation in Africa for the 10th consecutive year, and is very active in the regional development of the Indian Ocean and Africa. Such tremendous progress was only possible because our constitution has, for the last 50 years, provided a blueprint that has brought us social cohesion, political stability, economic progress, and financial development.